we are concerned that awareness of what's going on in Europe is actually not widespread.
Since 2008, we have an economic crisis turned into a financial crisis. Now we have clearly a social crisis. We see a lot of reforms in the social field, in particular labor law, relating to working time, dismissal law, collective bargaining processes. But we see it also in, for instance, the social protection area, pensions going down, contributions for social security going up. People are taking our working paper back home, back to the enterprises, back to the negotiations table, often because it's one of the few sources, if not to say the only sources, which really maps what is going on around Europe.
We have to raise awareness of what is happening.
A group of lawyers signed the manifesto and indicate that basic fundamental rights are not respected.
We see extreme poverty. We see actually a humanitarian crisis now in several European countries.
We have to urge the European institution to react to the consequences of the anti-crisis measures that are taken.
By signing a manifesto, we thought that that could be a way of spreading the message.
My role in the manifesto was actually to coordinate those labor law experts and to invite legal academic community in Europe to join this initiative.
I decided to support because it was the right moment to publish a manifesto, and most of the persons who have signed the manifesto, I think, had the same impression.
We want a change in policies because they are wrong, they don't work, they are putting the burden on the most vulnerable, and they are not the solution for the future of Europe. All the people who are supporting this message and explaining that these policies are not working and are not the right one are really welcome.
One of the aims of the ETC campaign is to regain this narrative, and we need arguments, and the manifesto will be one of them.
This manifesto could be part of a new wave of protest saying the direction that Europe is taking is the wrong one, and if we want to keep our European social model, we have to return to the basics.
European Union law is a body of treaties and legislation.
Labour law includes all legislation that defines and regulates the relationship between actors on the labour market. Actors involved are workers, trade unions, the government, and employers.
We can distinguish between individual labor law and collective labor law. The former area defines rights and obligations of workers of employers, which includes minimum wage, working time regulations, and regulations regarding health and safety of employees.
The latter area regulates the relationship between employers, employees, and trade unions, defining a legal framework for strikes and workers' involvement in decision-making within companies.
How does it work?
Labor laws falls under the area of social policy, which is highly sensitive.
Although member states are responsible for policies in this area, the European Union has adopted some measures as well in order to increase cohesion between member states. These measures aim to increase employment, social protection, living and working conditions, and coherence between economic and social standards.
Accordingly, measures implemented by the European Union do not replace national legislation, but supplement and support laws of member states. One example is legislation which defines minimum standards for social policies within member states in order to guarantee a basic standard within the entire European Union.
The European Commission controls the implementation of EU law to ensure that it is correctly implemented.
Unemployment, a European problem.
Unemployment is seen as a problem for whole Europe. That's why there has been a transfer of competencies of employment policies to the EU level. However, these competencies are limited to the monitoring and benchmarking capacity.
So the European Union has a crucial role since it introduced a protective legal framework for European states.
This aims at
promoting the cooperation of member states,
promoting the coordination and harmonization of national policies,
Promoting the participation of local authorities, unions, employers' organizations and other stakeholders involved.
The priority aims of this policy are to
increase employment and worker mobility,
quality of jobs and working conditions,
inform and consult workers to combat poverty and social exclusion.
Promote equality between men and women.
Modernize social protection systems.
Social employment conditions.
The employer's obligation to inform the employees of the conditions applicable to the contract or employment relationship.
Fixed-term work.
Ensure that workers not suffer unjustified discrimination.
Part-time work.
Set out to eliminate and justify discrimination against part-time workers and improve the quality of part-time work.
Temporary agency workers.
Defines a general framework applicable to the working conditions of temporary workers.
Health and safety, fixed term and temporary employment.
And temporary agency workers who are more exposed to the risk of accidents at work and occupational diseases than other workers, have the same level of safety and health protection at work as other employees.
Young people at work.
Considers protection of young people at work and prohibition of employment of children.
Working Time Directive.
Minimum rules are needed on working time in all EU member states.
Sectoral working time.
Conditions considering various areas.
Posting of workers, yo!
Employer insolvency.
If an employer becomes insolvent, It is obviously important that the employer's entitlements should be well protected. The European Union has acted to consolidate and improve employee rights in this field.
Transfer of undertakings.
If a workplace is transferred from one employer to another, it is important to protect the employee's rights. The EU has acted to ensure that this takes place.
All of these areas are key to ensuring high levels of employment and social protection throughout the EU.
While employment policy measures can be found in the Amsterdam Treaty, they take the form of soft law. There are two reasons why there is no legal employment policy.
Member States' rejection of the Commission's proposed supply-side measures has proved to a major obstacle.
The finding of an effective employment strategy has been hindered. The reason is that there are differences concerning those pressing for greater labour market deregulation and those advocating an increase in expansionist macro-level intervention.
As we can see in the European Commission's 1993 white paper, European unemployment is not one discrete challenge, but many separate and simultaneous ones.
So, considering the above-mentioned details, we can determine that there are many policy recommendations or guidelines in employment. This enables an announcement overview for the admission, which has a monetary function.
So this changes the aim of legislative harmonization to the use of soft law. So this strengthens more a coordination through guidelines than a harmonization.
Example of policies.
European employment strategy.
The job creation mission.
Effective, active labour market policies.
Flexible and reliable work contracts.
The introduction of lifelong learning strategies.
The modernization of social security systems.
Employment package.
Public Employment Service.
Work Program 2030.
Considering community employment policies.
For example, guidelines for employment policies.
Considering health, hygiene and safety at work.
And safety at work general rules.
Considering the European Strategy for Growth.
Guidelines for employment policies. Council Decision 2010-707 EU.
Europe 2020.
Targets to be achieved by 2020.
Policy recommendations.
Programs.
Youth on the move.
An agenda for new skills and jobs.
European Platform Against Poverty and Social Exclusion.
You can find further information on the internet. Thank you for watching.
Bye.